Welcome. We're glad that you could be with us this evening. I'm the man that takes care of this cemetery, the sexton. You should know that even though this land was not originally designed to be a cemetery, this is actually the third oldest cemetery in the Salt Lake Valley. This land was originally owned by Thomas and Harriet Williams. They had it as part of their farm that they homesteaded in the early 1860s. And then when Thomas died, the land was owned by Harriet and their eldest son Ezra. Well, in 1869, a 12-year-old boy who was traveling with his family in a wagon train to California was bit by a poisonous spider and died right here in this area. And the local bishop prevailed upon Harriet to be able to bury the little boy here. Then a few years later, a man named Mr. Hansen drowned in the Jordan River, and once again they needed a place to bury him, and once again Harriet and Ezra said yes. For a long time, a small picket fence marked the area where the two graves were, but in 1877, with another death of the daughter of L.J. Mantle, Bishop Benyon of the North Jordan Ward asked Harriet and Ezra to sell a small parcel of land to the LDS Church, and that land was later deeded to the church for use as an official cemetery. Ownership of this cemetery changed hands many times over the years. In the early 1980s, a land developer who did not live in the Salt Lake Valley and had no ties to Taylorsville's heritage decided that the cemetery was too valuable to be used for a cemetery and wanted to use the land to develop apartment housing. He wanted to remove all of the gravestones and tear out the whole area. Well, fortunately, this saddened many of the longtime residents of Taylorsville, and a public outcry soon ensued. A man named Mr. Lavelle Prince, who later became the first mayor of Taylorsville City, and others helped purchase the cemetery. At that point, a huge cleanup effort ensued. Over 30 Eagle projects alone were involved, and many men, women, and children also helped. The cemetery had come into a state of huge disrepair. There was weeds that had covered everything, and many of the headstones were also covered by dirt that had been dug from new graves. It was really a mess. But a lot of people worked hard to get it cleaned up, and from that point on, this has been a beautiful and a peaceful place, cared for in a way befitting of it. And ultimately in 2008, the city of Taylorsville purchased the cemetery and is now the owner. So tonight, as you go throughout the cemetery, you're going to hear stories of some of those who settled and tamed this harsh desert land, fitting it for our later use. You'll hear stories also from some of their descendants who grew up here and who furthered the cause of family, belonging, and patriotism, thus strengthening our Taylorsville community. You'll hear stories that'll make you smile, stories that will touch you with their own individual brand of courage and goodness, stories that will make you shiver at the difficulties they faced. These noble people who settled this land and who survived the harshness of this era did so because they had a deep and abiding faith in God. Many were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They were Mormon pioneers and children of Mormon pioneers. And we cannot separate their courage and perseverance from that of their religious faith, because it was indeed their faith in a loving Father in heaven that gave them their courage. They would not quit, and they could not excuse themselves from giving any less than their very best, for they believed that God would be with them through it all. They lived as they believed, with hard work coupled with their faith, with love of family and neighbor, with integrity and optimism that helped lay them through all the difficulties that peppered their daily lives. Now, that being said, you need not be of any particular faith or belief to appreciate and learn from the stories of those who settled our community. Please take with you tonight from these tales hope, encouragement, amusement, and the pride in rubbing shoulders with some of your Taylorsville neighbors. We have a lot of good people in this community. You know, in 1997, a lady by the name of Mavis Stedman came up with the idea to tell the stories of these settlers in this way. She called the name of her program Tombstone Tales. And in 2003, 2009, and 2015, we continued her program. And tonight, we build upon that legacy with the 2022 production of Tombstone Tales. Now remember, as you go throughout the cemetery, all the stories you'll hear tonight are true. And as you go, please watch your step. The ground can be a little bit uneven. Thanks and have a great night.